I can remember back in the day, the term was you utilize the amount of force, only the amount of force necessary to effect the arrest. But on the other side of the line, when we enter into a riot situation, those folks that are rioting are using whatever lethal forces they deem necessary and what is opportunistic to them. I don't ever remember having a riot in Moscow. I never remember having a riot at Washington State University until it happened. We never had a police officer killed here that I can remember until Officer Newbill was killed. It's preparation is what it is. This is opportunistic. You know, there's no question about that. And this kind of gets back, I think, to my discussion about specific refunds and reimbursements that come into various departments. Some of it can be pretty gray, and there's no question about that. This reimbursement is not gray. This reimbursement came in specifically because of a job that our police officers were doing, and we were able to get reimbursed for it. How much preparation do we need to take? I think when it comes down to the part where we need to protect our officers to whatever extent that we can afford to do, that is a priority. So in this particular case, I think that the expenditures of these funds for this particular item is warranted. This is not to say that we don't have other items that are important within this city. There's no question about that. But if it comes down to a situation that means the health, life, or death of one of our public servants, that to me takes a priority.
Mr. Chair.
Excuse me. Mayor Cheney.
We do have some other competing interests. We've had requests for a fire truck. I mean, there are life safety considerations across the board in police department, in fire, in EMS, and those kinds of things that we want to support to provide for the safety of our city employees, for the volunteers who serve us, and for the public at large. So what I'm saying is there are a variety of life safety considerations that will be in this fiscal year 13 budget as well, and we will be balancing those out. So please know I don't begrudge the police department safety equipment at all, absolutely not. But I do think that, you know, having this come through a budget process so that we can actually compare the priorities. Is a police car worth more than riot gear? I don't know. You know, is the providing for the remodel of the police department worth as much as riot gear? Probably not. But these are priorities, and as you say, there is an opportunistic element to the way this was presented, and all I'm saying is that, you know, having it come through the process might have been a little bit easier to weigh the importance of this particular request. As I say, I do not begrudge them the safety of this. That must be paramount in our consideration.
Well,
Mayor Cheney, you made a comment about other departments not making requests. The other departments weren't out on the street at midnight putting themselves out there for whatever might be facing them. That's how the money came into the city. That's how they knew about the money came into the city. You've made some comment about this coming out of the 2013 budget. My information is that it will move into capital funds somewhere. And so it's either going to drop into the street fund or this fund or that fund or the whatever fund if we don't act on this now and in favor of it. Chief, just to clarify, this department had no riot gear in 1999 when they responded to WSU. This equipment was bought subsequent to that?
98.
98.
It was started purchasing in 98, and I actually got some gear when I joined in June of 99. That was one of the last major expenses.
But the WSU response was
1998.
Was without
gear.
Gear.
Correct.
And our officers and other officers were hurt in that circumstance? Is the
23 officers were treated at Pullman Hospital for injuries.
Mayor Cheney, this is rhetorical, and I don't expect an answer. You made the statement you don't begrudge safety equipment. I truly believe you. I do believe you begrudge the source of the funds. If these funds came from a drug bust and they found $20,000 worth of cash in the bedroom, and the courts gave that to the Moscow PD, and they walked in here and asked to get those refunds and reimbursements or wherever you put that money used to buy this purchase, I really doubt in my own mind that you would have as much a problem with this as you're apparently having now. I think it's the source of the funds that's bothering you. I am in favor of this. I will vote for it today. I will vote for it when it becomes before the council.
Gary?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that it's coming before you. When I talked to David as the manager of the police department, it was decided, he requested if he could access the funds. I guided him through the process to bring it through to council. Had it not gone that way, then it likely would still be in the budget proposal. But as we're trying to balance the budget and we're trying to maximize our opportunities, it was something that we thought we would bring forward for council's consideration. Now, I do agree with Mayor Cheney that it is an extraordinary circumstance, but I also think it's management's job to try and identify alternatives as well, and that's merely what you have before you today.
Well, it does seem as though it is Chief Duke has prioritized it, so it may be extraordinary, but he's made an extraordinary prioritization. One further and quickie, what's Pullman's riot equipment situation?
I really don't have any knowledge of their equipment situation, but as we say, we haven't had riots in Moscow since I've been here. I've been on 2 major call-outs where the department has been mobilized but not utilized, and our 2 most recent close civil disturbances were at the last 2 BSU games.
Well, let's hope we never have one.
Well, we're not going to play BSU again, so that ought to solve part of that problem.
I mean, we're not going to beat them again.
I'm playing with
Playing
I
again.
digress here, gentlemen.
Any further comments?
Other than I can say is I hope that we never have an opportunity to have to use any riot gear, and that 15 years from now, if you're still the chief, which I hope you will be, but at any rate, I hope you're coming back saying, well, it's all deteriorated again in 15 or 20 years and it has to be replaced simply because it was used through practice and not through practicality.
And I hope in 15 years that they would have better equipment. Like when we purchased it back in '98, that was the top of the line, but now it's so antiquated. And as the officer commented, the knee guards are remarketed catchers' outfits, and we would prefer to have more flexible protective in both absorbing any hits and then protecting the officers in more areas.
Mayor Cheney.
Just want to take an opportunity to thank the police department for the way they manage the issue with the megaload hauls, with the way they conduct themselves every day. They're taking extraordinary risk just being out there, and I think they're doing an outstanding job. So if there's any doubt about that, as I think that this, is the extraordinary circumstance that Gary mentioned was unknown to me, and it was not clarified to me until late this morning about the source of this and the pursuit of it. It has nothing to do with my great admiration and appreciation for what our law enforcement officers do for our city.
Thank you, Mayor Cheney.
And I'll take the responsibility for the late notice. A lot of this was mentioned in an email just last week of approaching this to Gary and wanting to bring this to your, and he took the initiative to put it on today's agenda, which he actually did the CCSR, which I'm very appreciative, but it's my responsibility. It was such late notice.
It's been very interesting. I can count. I also feel the same way as my two fellow council members here, and this committee will recommend the purchase of 28 sets of protective gear with monies that have been receipted into the refunds and reimbursements line item. Is that? And then, but I do think it should go to council.
The regular agenda.
Yes, sir.